Okay, so before we start with the pasuk, I have a methodology point to share. Okay, and it's possible I've said this before, but I want to say it again. So last night at the Migdal HaTorah dinner, then I met someone who apparently listens to a lot of my shiurim, and we were talking about Mishlei and stuff. And he asked me later on in the evening, he said, "Do you ever get tired uh, of learning in such a formulaic way?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, well, he said, I listened to a lot of your shiurim, and you always start off, you always have the same procedure. You start off with the questions, and then the translation, the questions and stuff. And he said, does that ever get boring? And I said, so I said, first of all, I would like to think, and I can't be objective about myself. I would like to think that the ideas are not formulaic, and that we get new ideas. We're always looking for a chiddush, for a new insight. And we don't accept ideas that are old ideas, or we try not to. That's going to be the challenge tonight. And I said that I think you're making a mistake, which is easy to make, which is you're mistaking my teaching style for my learning style. Okay. There is a quotation from Bruce Lee, and I actually couldn't find the version of it that I like. Oh, hold on just one second. But I found this other version. So this version says, learn the principle, abide by the principle, and dissolve the principle. In short, enter a mold without being caged by it, obey the principle without being bound by it, learn, master, and achieve. The version that I like is a little bit pithier, which is learn the rules, master the rules, dissolve the rules. And he was saying that about martial arts, but he was also saying it about all crafts, all skills, all types of chachma, that there are rules, if let's say you want to learn how to play basketball, or you want to learn how to play an instrument, there are set principles that you need to subordinate yourself to in order to be able to get the foundations. And once you do, if you said, oh, I'm going to just figure out everything on my own, then that would be crazy. You wouldn't get anywhere. And then after you subordinate yourself, you need to devote years to mastering those principles to the point where they're internalized. And only after you master them can you then break free of them, and not even in a rebellious way. It usually is a gradual way. I think for me, the clearest way that I see this is in music. And again, you have to apply this to your own favorite musical artists or songwriters or whatever. But let's say for me, if you listen, I don't like early Beethoven. Early Beethoven was basically, and I know I'm insulting him by saying this, but early Beethoven was like a Mozart copycat. And then as he matured, he started becoming himself, and then he became Beethoven, but it's only when you have internalized those principles that have been set forth by the thinkers or the artists before you, do you have the freedom to really elaborate. I'm going to finish this thought, and then I'll call on people for questions, but or comments. So I said that when I am teaching, then I tend to go through the same procedures, because my focus is on, in high school, my focus was on, I want my students to have more than just ideas. I want them to have methodologies that they can take with them and apply in their own learning. So that's in the first stage of learning the rules. I think by and large, most of the people who come to this year are in the stage of, some of them are in the stage of learning the rules because they're newer to Mishlei. Some of them are in the stage of mastering the rules, and eventually you'll get to the point where you can dissolve the rules. But I told this person who asked me the question, I said that in my own learning, I don't learn this way, and in my own chavrusas, with my peers, then we don't do any of this, and the learning looks very different. But that's because we've all matured and gotten to that point, so I think you're all at the stage right now where you should be mastering the rules and following the formulas, but at a certain point, you're going to get to the, you're going to start to have differences, and then you're going to be able to develop those, and then develop your own approach. That was my comment there. And I want to make one more comment also, is that when I was in yeshiva, so we have the great, bracha of having a new member of our faculty at YBT, Rabbi Gober. Rabbi Gober was my first Rebbe in yeshiva who really taught me the derech of learning. And I made a huge mistake in learning from him, which is that I had him for Gemara, and he presented his ideas in such a way where when he was in Shiur presenting the ideas, it was almost like he was deducing them step by step from the Gemara, And I thought that the way that he arrived at his ideas in his learning was the same way that he was presenting them in Shiur. And only maybe like a year and a half later, I realized, no, the way he's arriving at the ideas is different than the way he's presenting them. And once I got that, then I realized that I can't follow the method of presentation is not the method of deriving. Teaching is one thing, learning is another, and there's an overlap, but they're not synonymous. And so I think that that's an important thing to realize, and that's why I'm so strict on we're going to ask all the questions first, and then we're going to go to the ideas, et cetera, is I want you to walk away with a procedure, and I want you to master the rules. Okay, so I think my dad had a question first, and then Tamar.
So first of all, I'm not muted, am I?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Good, you're learning.
So Matthew's familiar with an article I wrote on managing emergencies. And I used the basis of managing emergencies in the operating room to generalize to other things. And there were 4 principles, and the last principle was think outside the box. And I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but I mean, it's actually what happened has happened to me in that emergency and other emergencies where I know the rules of managing someone's airway, and at a certain point, you have to call the police. If you're interested in the article, I can supply it for you. But is that what you're talking about, thinking outside the box?
Yeah, it's that's a very Mishlei way of looking at it. And I don't think I wrote this article. I intended to write an article on a Magic the Gathering card. So you don't need to know Magic the Gathering for this, but Magic the Gathering has what's called flavor text, which is quotes at the bottom. And this one is sometimes the most radical thing you can do is think inside the box. And I really like that quote, because what you do have to do anyone can come up with dumb stuff. Anyone can just use their imagination and just well, what if it means this? And that's what differentiates all the nonsense you'll find out there on the internet in terms of Torah with people who actually go to yeshiva or seminary and spend years with disciplining their thinking. You need to learn to think inside the box in order to be able to think outside of the box. First and foremost, because you need to know what the box is, but then thinking inside the box is what gives you the skills of thinking. And that, again, this is the one of the many reasons why I focus on Mishlei. One of the explicit missions of Mishlei is, he says in the second pasuk, Ladas chachma musar, to know wisdom and disciplines. That's what we focus on. But then lahavin imrei bina, to understand statements of understanding, which means to be able to train your mind in understanding and in deriving ideas from statements that have ideas encoded in them. So you do need to, there is thinking outside of the box, but you need to be able to master thinking in the box before you think outside of the box. Okay, Tamar?
Okay, this is kind of just a side point, so I'll try and make it quick.
Sure.
But this quote from Bruce Lee, and it made me think of this blog post that I read by a very prestigious mathematician who said that in his experience that when you learn how to do sort of academic research level math, you see that people are working very deductively, they're going step by step. Yeah. But at some point with higher level mathematicians, they will, it's hard to tell what they're doing, but somehow they make more mistakes in their deductive steps, but the steps somehow all canceled out because they were thinking on some other plane. Yeah. If you try and read it, it's that's funny. Really, they weren't doing some sort of step-by-step deduction. They were doing something else. Yeah. Right.
I don't know what that means, but I can relate to it in my own fields. And that's why also I remember Rav Pesach telling us that when he was in yeshiva, he had a chavrusa who was very bad for him, that when they were learning and they were trying to come up with a svara, with the conceptual theory, then, whenever Rav Pesach would make a move, his chavrusa would hit him would point out a problem or a question. And Rav Pesach said that what that did is it stifled his intuition, that there are certain times when you need to be able to say, I don't understand how this is going, I see this glaring problem, but I have to keep moving forward because I have a strong intuition that this is going to come together. And again, when you first start out in learning, then that's going to lead you into a swamp, but then the more adept you get at learning, then the more you'll be able to trust in that intuition. And like I said in the, where is it? I have the book on my shelf somewhere. Oh yeah. I know I've quoted this in this year before, but Boyd Vardy's The Line Tracker's Guide to Life. The quote that he says over and over and over again is I have no idea where we're going, but I know exactly how to get there. And that's expressing the same idea that when it comes to Pasuk and Mishlei, like, I saw a documentary for the second time over the break, I think called Spielberg, about Steven Spielberg and his career. And I think I didn't write down the quote, but he said that when he when he is about to be starting to work on a movie, he needs to be in a situation where he is absolutely terrified and feels like he has no idea whether this is going to work. And once he gets into that situation, that awakens all the creativity, and then that allows him to go forward and really rely on his intuition. And that's how I feel tonight. That's how I feel every Monday night when I do Mishlei Shiur. That's how I feel every morning when I do Mishlei Shiur. But again, that intuition has to be built up over the course of a lot of disciplined thinking, which is what we're working on every Mishlei Shiur.
Can I give a support using my company?
Sure, why not?
All right, I just put an image in the chat. I think this kind of like supports the idea where like you have like the foundation or the models at on the bottom of the pyramid, then you have the creativity over it, and that it's like a stable model. But like you have the creativity, underneath the models, it's kind of a little unstable. Plans.
Okay,
so
cool. Yeah, I wasn't able to open the thing. I downloaded it and I couldn't find it, but
I'll put it in the WhatsApp chat.
Okay, sure. All right, sounds good. Okay.
Something.
All right. Thanks for letting me have that little methodology talk. Okay, so I'm going to actually stop the recording and then start a new one for the puzzle now.